Hello, John. Welcome. Hello, Vivian. Welcome. We'll give it until 5 after so that we allow people to come in before we get started. How's everything? How's video? How's audio? Hola, Jose. Hello, James. Welcome. Hello, John and Audrey. Welcome. We'll give it a few more minutes before we get started. Hello, Janta and Gregory. Welcome. First Dhammapalooza in about 6 weeks, somewhere's around there. Let me bring up our chant. All right. Let's get started then. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Now, this is a chant that many of you may have heard, even if you didn't recognize it. This form is used in the Thai forest tradition. And so if you've heard them chant this when you give a dana or something like that, now you can know what the English is. So we'll do the Pali and the English here. Yata varivaha pora paripurenti sagarang evameva ito dinang petanang upakappati ichitang patitang tumhang kippang eva samijjatu sabbe purentu sankappa chando panaraso yata mani jyotiro yata Sabityo vivajantu sabarogo vinasatu mate bhavatvantarayo sukhi digayuko bhava abhivadana silasa nichang buddha pachayano chattaro dhamma vadanti ayuvanno sukhang balang bhavatu sabba mangalang rakantu sabba devata sabba buddha nibhavena sada soti bhavantu te Bhavatu sabba mangalang rakantu sabba devata sabba dhamma nibhavena sada soti bhavantu te. Bhavatu sabba mangalang rakantu sabba devata sabba sangha nibhavena sada soti bhavantu te. Now the English. Just as rivers full of water entirely fill up the sea, so will what's here been given bring blessings to the departed spirits. May all your hopes and all your longings come true in no long time. May all your wishes be fulfilled, like on the 15th day of the moon, or like a bright and shining gem. May all misfortunes be avoided. May all illness be dispelled. May you never meet with dangers. May you be happy and live long. For those who are respectful, who always honor the elders, 4 are the qualities which will increase: life, beauty, happiness, and strength. May every blessing come to be, and all good spirits guard you well. Through the power of all Buddhas, may you always be at ease. May every blessing come to be, and all good spirits guard you well. Through the power of the Dhamma, may you always be at ease. May every blessing come to be, and may all good spirits guard you well. Through the power of all the Sanghas, may you always be at ease. All right, welcome, friends, to the first Dhammapalooza in close to a month and a half. Now that I am back from my Australia trip almost a week ago, and I think it just took till today for me to actually start to feel normal. I had a somewhat normal day today. But friends, this is Dhammapalooza, which is our 2-hour festival of Dhamma every Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern New York time. During this Dhammapalooza, we do a variety of Dhamma-related activities, including chanting, guided meditations, Q&A, Dhamma talks, etc. Lots of all kinds of different Dhamma-related activities. And each Dhammapalooza is different because this is a community-guided event. This means that, instead of just me choosing the schedule and choosing everything, I actually like to have you guys play a role in how this Dhammapalooza goes. This is why I never put a title. I only put Dhammapalooza and the date. That's because I don't know what the topic is going to be or the topics or even what we'll actually be doing. Sometimes it's just a big Q&A. Sometimes nobody has any questions, so we read suttas. There's a lot of different ways that this can go. So for now, the next couple of minutes in the chat, if you have any questions for me that you'd like me to answer, if you have any topics you'd like me to discuss or the community to discuss, anything relating to Buddhism, meditation, Dhamma, etc., put that in the chat. And if there is nothing, then we always have a backup sutta to read. As a matter of fact, we've been doing the last couple Dhammapaloozas, we've been doing something that I've really enjoyed. The only problem is we've been doing it at the end when most people are gone. So I think maybe this one, if not the next one, We'll do some sutta roulette in the beginning. This way, more people will have fun. So what is sutta roulette? Well, it's we read a sutta, but we don't know what sutta. So usually what I'll do is, I see some people want me to talk about Australia, that we can do that, no problem. Then what I'll do is I say, type a number, and whoever's first comes up in the chat, that's the section. So like Samyutta, if we're going to do the Samyutta Nikaya, a number between 1 and 57, right? And then a number between 1 and 80. And then that's how we read the suttas. So it's just like random numbers. We don't know who's going to be first. So it's fun. I actually quite enjoy doing that. And I think the people who have been on at the end of this Dhammapaloozas have enjoyed it as well. And we just get a total random sampling of the suttas that way. All right. Chat's a little bit quiet tonight. Not too much going on. Remember, you guys can talk to each other in the chat. You can say hello, talk Dhamma. You're not interrupting me. You're not being disrespectful. It's perfectly fine for the community to discuss in the chat. Sin. Oh, Sin. Good to see you. Dear Bhante, somebody asked me the other day if awareness is emptiness, and I didn't know what to say. Well, that's good you didn't know what to say, because it's kind of a wacky question. It sounds like something like, some kind of like quasi-Buddhist, New Agey type of person would say. I don't know. At least, and more in the Mahayana anyway, is awareness emptiness. So I'm going to answer this from the Theravada perspective. Emptiness, sunyata, is not that often in the suttas. And it has very, very few meanings in the suttas, other than one. That is anatta. So emptiness of soul, permanent essence. And going by that, then yes, awareness is empty. If you were to ask, well, who is aware? The Buddha would say, invalid question. When perception arises, awareness arises. I don't know. I don't know. Obviously, Buddha doesn't ask, because this thing called awareness that everybody uses, there's no real Pali word connected to this. It's just kind of a catch-all term, English term. But that's basically the long and short. The long and short is emptiness in the suttas is connected to not self, anatta, and so therefore everything is empty in that regard. Mahayana takes that and expands on it and makes it more fancy and more intricate and esoteric and things like that. But it's basically still the same thing, if I'm not mistaken. Everything is emptiness. Jose, tell us all about Australia. Well, Jose, I met a monk, a Mexican monk, and we talked a little bit about Dhamma in Espanol. He's one vasa less than me. I'm 6, he was 5. Really nice monk. I was leaving the monastery the day he was coming, so we had very brief. We didn't have too much time to talk, but he was he was kind of debating if he really wanted to like get into like sharing the Dhamma in Espanol, because he knew he would get wrapped up in being like a teacher and all that kind of stuff. And I think he's debating about just living peacefully and quietly in the forest. We'll see. He's quite a nice monk, though. I enjoyed my conversation with him. But there's like a ton of things. I mean, there's a lot of things I could say. Just in general, what are the highlights of the trip? It was a month long. It's not like it was only a week. It was a month long. 4 flights in Australia, 5 monasteries, 4 major cities. Yeah, I guess that's about it. So I spent the first week in in Sydney and Canberra. Stayed at a place called the Buddhist Library. It's a neat place. It's literally a Buddhist library where people can go and check out books, but also it's a place where you can go and attend teachings and meditations and all kinds of stuff like that. They might actually have me do a Zoom teaching with them. Really nice place. Kind of sad. They're kind of on the outskirts. There's an interesting situation with them. They're literally right next to the Chinese embassy. Like there's literally a wall with barbed wire, and the Chinese embassy is trying to like buy them out and all kinds of things like that. So this kind of Buddhist institution that people everywhere I went, monasteries had at least heard of the Buddhist library, is its days might be numbered. I don't know, but it was quite. They have a nice little flat um, where oftentimes monks stay. Bhante Sujato had stayed there many times. Other monks have stayed there that I met. So it was a really neat place, really neat. Then I had a tour of Sydney, saw the Opera House. The Opera House is way smaller in real life than it looks on TV. I was like kind of unimpressed. I was like, this Opera House that I've seen, like, fireworks, New Year's, all the time, all my life, always looks so much bigger. Actually, it wasn't that big. And then I went to Canberra. Canberra is the capital. That's where the parliament is. I actually sat in the old speaker's chair. There's a picture. I don't know if it'll ever be public, but there's a picture. The Sri Lankan gentleman who was touring me through all the political places had me sit on this big chair, like big, almost kind of like a Dhamma chair, but it was a politics chair. And so that was fun. And I stayed at this place called Sri Lankan Vihara at Canberra. And the monk there was quite nice. He had me do something I've never done as a monk before. I've only ever done like a couple house dhanas, maybe once a year, maybe 4 or 5 ever in my life. And I did 2 in one day. because he's like, oh, a monk that could speak English. We're gonna he sent me out along with this other more senior Sri Lankan monk who doesn't really speak any English to these house dhanas, and I gave 2 Dhamma talks, and it worked out pretty well. But I was not expecting to do house dhanas and give talks while I was there. But then he really liked me, and he really saw, like, there's this thing with the Sri Lankans and the Thai people where they worry a lot about their kids and their kids not getting the culture, and the kids don't like or don't really connect with the Sri Lankan and Thai monastics. They connect with the Western monastics. So everywhere I go with Sri Lankan children, even with the Thai children a little bit, but I've had much more experience with Sri Lankan children. Everywhere I go, they want me to do some kind of, class, study, day-long hiking or whatever with the kids, because the kids and I connect pretty well. So But he says, you come for 3 months. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know when I'm coming back to Australia again. We'll see. I maybe I might come for a Vasa, but I'm not gonna. Yeah, I'm not gonna make any promises. And then after that, on the 7th day, I flew out to Perth. So flying from Sydney to Perth is about the same as flying from New York to California. Maybe 20 minutes shorter, but it's about the same. And so then I spent the next week at Ajahn Brahm's monastery, Bodhinyana. I stayed in a remote kuti because they have no space there whatsoever. That was like the only place I could stay. And it took me a half hour to walk to the monastery, which was fine. I got some good exercise. And that was a good week. And then after that, I went to Melbourne. So I went across Australia. Then I went down towards the middle. That's Melbourne. And I stayed at Newbury for 4 days. Then I went up to Brisbane and I stayed at Dhammagiri for 3 days. And then I went back down to Sydney and I spent 3 days at Santi Monastery, which is now Bhikkhuni Monastery. And that's where you saw me do Dhammapalooza from Down Under with Venerable Pasanna. I really enjoyed my time at Santi. There's a young Sri Lankan abbot woman, a bhikkhuni. She's like 2 years older than me. So it's like, it was kind of fun to be around. She's very kind of fun and spunky. She's called Aya Karunika. And I really enjoyed my time with her. She was quite a pip, as they say. And then there was another one staying there, Venerable Analia. She was also quite nice. And then I came back. I spent a couple of days at the Buddhist library, and I went back, and I left. In between that, I also got to spend a day, about a little less than 24 hours with Bhante Sujato. Stayed at his Lokanta Vihara, the monastery at the end of the world, which is just an apartment, but it's pretty funny. And I did Pindapat with him in the local Indian community. That's where he lives. He lives in an Indian community, so he's always well supported, as is the tradition in India, going back 3,000 years at least. And that's it. So if you want me to be more specific, then you can ask me a more specific, like how was XY place? But that was pretty much the summary. Jose asked, did you go to Ajahn Brahm's monastery? Yes, I mentioned that. And how does a monk pay for a trip? Asking because monks do not have money. How do you know? Maybe I have a huge bank account where I can just go everywhere I want in the world. No. How do monks pay for a trip? We don't. We get invited to go somewhere, and then we go. There's 2 Sri Lankan sisters, Anoma and Shanta, and they are the ones who brought me to Australia. Anoma, who lives in Australia, Shanta lives in Georgia here in America. Anoma is like a master organizer and tactician. Just like the amount of times that I had to be picked up, dropped off, 4 flights. I mean, it is just like different people in different cities, and it was quite interesting. But it all went pretty smoothly. So, but it's thanks to them. They invited me years ago, and they met me at Bhavana. They've known Bhante Ji since maybe like 35 years or something like that. and they wanted me to come. This trip was in the making since like 2018. That's how old this trip is. Of course, it was supposed to happen in 2020, then COVID. Now it happened in 2022. All right. Chat is quiet. Under what term would you categorize feelings, not feelings as a Buddhist term, like for example, Samvega? The feeling accompanying with Samvega is what is important. I suppose one should make use of the feelings, right? Sounds like a very useful tool, though I'd rather act without any feelings. But it is what it is, I suppose. So Vedana is both physical and mental. So this kind of, like you say, Samvega, like or Nibbida, like feeling a disenchantment. These are feeling. These are, these are Vedana, but they're often more than that too, like an emotion, right? An emotion is a complicated thing. It's not just a feeling, a physical or a mental feeling, but you're also talking about chitta as well. You're also talking about the mind, right? You're also talking about it. It's more than just one thing. It's complicated. Well, but yeah, I mean, it's perfectly okay to use like the convention. I am feeling X. I am feeling Nibbida right now. I'm feeling disenchantment. Right? Yeah, that's fine. All right. Well, chat's quiet, so why don't we read a sutta? All the defilements. Majjhima Nikaya number 2. The very beginning of the Majjhima Nikaya. I might also end this Dhammapalooza early. I'm feeling quite tired. We'll see. I haven't really had a normal sleep schedule. I'm just starting to kind of come back to even normal of that. Um, but let's read for now. So I have heard at one time the Buddha was staying near Savatthi at Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's monastery. There the Buddha addressed the mendicants. Mendicants, venerable sir, they replied. The Buddha said this: Mendicants, I will teach you the explanation of the restraint of all the defilements. Listen and pay close attention. I will speak. Yes, sir, they replied. The Buddha said this: Mendicants, I say that the ending of the defilements, so let's just see the word here, asava, so you can understand the word that's being talked about. This is, you might have seen it translated as like a flow, right? So inflowing, affliction, pain, like a discharge, like a sore, right? So that's all this means. Various different things here. I think also taints. I believe it's asava that is translated as taints as well. So, okay. Mendicants, I say that the ending of defilements is for one who knows and sees, not for one who does not know and see. For one who knows and sees what? Proper attention and improper attention. Maniso, Yoniso Manasikara and Ayoniso Manasikara. Right? Yoni, wisely, properly, judiciously. So this another way this is translated as wise attention or wise consideration. Yoni means like the womb. So this is often talked about as somewhat as being able to see the root, see things deeply. Manasikara means like consideration. Yeah. Contemplation even. When you pay improper attention, defilements arise, and once arisen, they grow. When you pay proper attention, defilements don't arise, and those that have already arisen are given up. Does this sound familiar? It's like right effort, right? When you observe, when unskillful arises, you don't attach to it, you don't feed it, and that has already arisen is given up. Some defilements should be given up by seeing, some by restraint, some by using, some by enduring, some by avoiding, some by dispelling, and some by developing. Defilements given up by seeing. And what are the defilements that should be given up by seeing? Take an unlearned, ordinary person, patujana here, a common worldling and uneducated person. This is not talking about somebody who graduated high school and college versus didn't graduate high school and college. This is talking about a wise person who has followed the path versus somebody who is not on the path. A patujana is just a regular person in the world. Take an unlearned ordinary person who has not seen the noble ones and is neither skilled nor trained in the teaching of the noble ones. They have not seen good persons and are neither skilled nor trained in the teaching of good persons. They don't understand to which things they should pay attention and to which things they should not pay attention. So they pay attention to things they shouldn't. Sound familiar? And don't pay attention to things they should. Like that pile of bills that are just stacking up that you're avoiding. And what are the things which they pay attention but should not? They are things that, when attention is paid to them, give rise to unarisen defilements and make arisen defilements grow. Again, right effort. Actually, well, technically, that would be wrong effort. But we see the framework of right effort in this the statements here. The defilements of sensual desire, desire to reborn, and ignorance. These are the things to which they pay attention but should not. And what are the things to which they do not pay attention but should? They are the things that, when attention is paid to them, do not give rise to unarisen defilements and give up arisen defilements. The defilements of sensual desire, desire to be reborn, and ignorance. These are the things to which they do not pay attention but should. All right, back. Ah, yes, Gautam. Yeah, that's right. Bella's coming back from India. I hope her stay in India was good and fruitful. I've been reading so many suttas. I get one to my email every day. Are you subscribed to that readingfaithfully.org? Like a wonderful handbook for life. Yeah, well, the suttas are a framework for study and practice. They are a framework for your experience. Yes. There are things that which they do not pay attention but should, but because of paying attention to what they should not and not paying attention to what they should, unarisen defilements arise and arisen defilements grow. This is how they attend improperly. Did I exist in the past? Did I not exist in the past? What was I in the past? How was I in the past? After being what did I become in the past? Will I exist in the future? Will I not exist in the future? What will I be in the future? How will I be in the future? After being what will I become in the future? Or they are undecided about the present thus. Am I? Am I not? What am I? How am I? This sentient being, where did it come from and where will it go? When they attend improperly in this way, one of the following 6 views arise in them and is taken as genuine fact. The view myself exists is an absolute in it, and myself exists in an absolute sense. The view myself does not exist in an absolute sense. The view I perceive the self with the self. The view I perceive what is not self with the self. The view I perceive the self with what is not self. Or they have such a view. This self of mine is he who speaks and feels and experiences the results of good and bad deeds in all the different realms. This self is permanent, everlasting, eternal, and imperishable, and will last forever and ever. This is called the misconception, the thicket of views, the desert of views, the trick of views, the evasiveness of views, the fetter of views. An unlearned, ordinary person who is fettered by views is not freed from birth, old age, and death, from sorrow, lamentation, pain, sadness, and distress. They are not freed from suffering, I say. But take a learned noble disciple who has seen the noble ones and is skilled in their training and teaching of the noble ones. They've seen good persons and are skilled and trained in the teaching of good persons. So here, this word "good persons" is not kalyanamita. This is sapurisa. This is a righteous man, right? A righteous person, a really good, ethical, moral person that stands above the rest. They understand to which things they should pay attention and to which things they should not pay attention. So they pay attention to things they should and don't pay attention to things they shouldn't. Ah, the right way. Although that's so hard, isn't it? Isn't it so much easier? That's what the Buddha says. Easy it is to do what is bad, hard to do what is good. And what are the things to which they don't pay attention and should not? They are things, when attention is paid to them, give rise to unarisen defilements and make arisen defilements grow. The defilements of sensual desire to be reborn and ignorance. These are the things which they don't pay attention and should not. And what are the things to which they pay attention and should? They are the things that, when attention is paid to them, do not give rise to unarisen defilements and give up arisen defilements. the defilements of sensual desire, desire to be reborn, and ignorance. These are the things to which they do pay attention and should. Because of not paying attention to what they should not and paying attention to what they should, unarisen defilements don't arise, and arisen defilements are given up. They properly attend. This is suffering. This is the origin of suffering. This is the cessation of suffering. This is the practice that leads to the cessation of suffering. And as they do, they give up three fetters: identity view, doubt, and misapprehension of precepts and observances. These are called the defilements that should be given up by seeing. Philosophical questions to the trash. Yeah, kinda. It's not necessarily that they're too bad, but if you focus on them and attach to them, and it doesn't really get you anywhere, it's not worth getting too wrapped up in them. Defilements given up by restraint. And what are the defilements that should be given up by restraint? Take a mendicant who, reflecting properly, lives restraining the faculty of the eye. For the distressing and feverish defilements that might arise in someone who lives without restraint of the eye faculty do not arise when there is such a restraint. Reflecting properly, they live restraining the faculty of ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. For the distressing and feverish defilements that might arise in someone who lives without restraint of the mind faculty do not arise when there is such restraint. For the distressing and feverish defilements that might arise in someone who lives without restraint do not arise when there is such restraint. These are called the defilements that should be given up by restraint. That's pretty straightforward. Defilements given up by using. And what are the defilements that should be given up by using? Take a mendicant who, reflecting properly, makes use of robes, only for the sake of warding off cold and heat, for warding off the touch of flies, mosquitoes, wind, sun, and reptiles, and for covering up private parts. Reflecting properly, they make use of alms food, not for fun, indulgence, adornment, or decoration, but only to sustain this body, to avoid harm, and to support the spiritual practice. In this way, I shall put an end to old discomfort and not give rise to new discomfort. I will live blamelessly and at ease. Reflecting properly, they make use of lodgings, only for the sake of warding off cold and heat, for warding off the touch of flies, mosquitoes, wind, sun, and reptiles, to shelter from harsh weather, and to enjoy retreat. Reflecting properly, they make use of medicines and supplies for the sick, only for the sake of warding off the pains of illness and to promote good health. For the distressing and feverish defilements that might arise in someone who lives without using these things do not arise when they are used. These are called the defilements that should be given up by using. And what are the defilements that should be given up by enduring? Take a mendicant who, reflecting properly, endures cold, heat, hunger, and thirst. They endure the touch of flies and mosquitoes, wind, sun, and reptiles. They endure rude and unwelcome criticism. And they put up with physical pain, sharp, severe, acute, unpleasant, disagreeable, and life-threatening. For the distressing and feverish defilements that might arise, and someone who lives without enduring these does not arise when they are endured. They are called the defilements that should be given up by enduring. Defilements that should be given up by avoiding. And what are the defilements that should be given up by avoiding? Take a mendicant who, reflecting properly, avoids a wild elephant, a wild horse, a wild ox, a wild dog, a wild human. Gotta watch out for those bala, those fools. A snake, a stump, thorny ground, a pit, a cliff, a swamp, and a sewer. Reflecting properly, they avoid sitting in inappropriate seats, walking in inappropriate neighborhoods, and mixing with bad friends. There you go. Whatever sensible spiritual companion would believe to be a bad setting. For the distressing and feverish defilements that might arise in someone who lives without avoiding these things do not arise when they are avoided. These are called the defilements that should be given up by avoiding. Defilements given up by dispelling. And what are the defilements that should be given up by dispelling? Take a mendicant who, reflecting properly, doesn't tolerate sensual, malicious, or cruel thought that has arisen. Dvaita Sutta, Majjhima Nikaya number 19, 2 kinds of thought. That's what the Buddha is talking about here. But gives it up, gets rid of it, eliminates it, and obliterates it. They don't tolerate any bad, unskillful qualities that have arisen, but give them up, get rid of them, eliminate them, and obliterate them. For the distressing and feverish defilements that might arise in someone who lives without dispelling these things do not arise when they are dispelled. They are called the defilements that should be given up by dispelling. Defilements given up by developing. And what are the defilements that should be given up by developing? It's when a mendicant, reflecting properly, develops the awakening factors of mindfulness, investigation of principles, 7 factors of awakening here, energy, rapture, tranquility, immersion, and equanimity, which rely on seclusion, fading away and cessation, and ripen as letting go. For the distressing and feverish defilements that might arise in someone who lives without developing these things do not arise when they are developed. These are called the defilements that should be given up by developing. Now take a mendicant who, by seeing, has given up the defilements that should be given up by seeing. By restraint, they've given up the defilements that should be given up by restraint. By using, they've given up the defilements that should be given up by using. By enduring, they've given up the defilements that should be given up by enduring. By avoiding, they've given up the defilements that should be given up by avoiding. By dispelling, they've given up the defilements that should be given up by dispelling. By developing, they've given up the defilements that should be given up by developing. They're called the mendicant who lives having restrained all defilements, who has cut off craving, untied the fetters, and by rightly comprehending conceit has made an end to suffering. That is what the Buddha said. Satisfied, the mendicants were happy with what the Buddha said. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right, friends, we've come to the end of our sutta. And unless there's any questions or anything you want me to speak about, I think I might actually end early. I'm more tired than I actually thought I would be. But if there's reasons to stay on, I will. I just feel the energy drained out of me, which is weird. Because I didn't feel that before, but now I do. Oh, Vivian. But we are back, at least for now, at least for the month of December. We'll be doing morning monastery experience in the mornings, 8 a.m. New York time. We'll have Dhammapalooza going. Where I'm going to be in January and February, I have no idea yet. So things are a bit up in the air. So we'll see what happens in terms of January and February. Hopefully, I'll be in a place where I can continue all my streams and everything that I do. Because the morning monastery experience took about a 5 month hiatus. a bit too long, but it is what it is. Oh, hello, Julie. Maybe I'll get to that Dhammapada recordings like I keep saying I'm going to do. I didn't catch where you are now. Well, right now I'm with family. I'm going to be in a couple different places this December. Different sisters, parents, who knows where else. But mostly I'm going to be in Jersey for this month. I might end up going down middle of January through most of February. I might be going to Virginia, and I might need help transport there. So if anybody's in like New Jersey, Maryland, Virginia, and want to help me transport, Bhante Rahula I might be staying with. I was supposed to stay with him last year, but it fell through on his end. So I'm going to go spend another month with him this year sometime. And we're trying to see possibly middle of January. It's Gaithersburg. I think Gaithersburg might be Maryland. And he said, Bhante Rahula said that if I could get to Baltimore, he should have somebody be able to pick me up. But no, it's in Maryland. Yeah. All right. Western Maryland. It's a nice, beautiful country out there. Rural suburbs. All right, friends. Well, until next time, Sukhi Hotu, may you be happy, practice well, and be well. May you have a spiritually successful and peaceful practice until we meet again. Hopefully, I'll see you tomorrow morning for some morning monastery experience or in another stream somewhere soon. Okay, friends. Have a good week. All right, Gautam. Let's talk and see what we can do. It might work out that way. Good night, everybody.